What's up, guys? Let's crack on with our basic Rhino course. Last time we looked into the first set of curve tools, which were filleting, chamfer, connecting curves, blending curves, all up to here to symmetry, which I personally never used. That was quite interesting. And then today we try to move forward. We look into control points, adding points, removing points from lines and curves. We're looking into offsetting, very important. Let's start with the control points. And you can see there's a triangle. So what triangle means, you already know. It means there is a submenu. And let's get the submenu here and let's go through all these. I'll just draw a line or a curve. So by default, I think it was also in Rhino 6, or when you select your object, then you actually see control points for this curve and you can modify it. So by default it's now on, which in the past it was not. But you can also turn it on permanently. So if I do this, then even though it's not selected, these points are actually visible. So if I can draw other stuff here and you still see the control points of that other curve. If I want to turn it off, I just click here, right? Use the right click, the right mouse button. So now I can, if I turn it on, it's on, and I can even connect the points. That's quite handy. This needs to be on here, the snapping function point. Then you can turn on the interpolation points or curve edit points. These basically are the points which are directly on the curve. Yeah, and if I use this one, so you can see that by default it's always on when I select it. And with this you can actually turn it off. So you don't, even though they are selected now, you can't see the points. Okay, as you know, there are two different types of points. There's the control points, and there are the interpolation points, which are directly on the curve. And now we will try to add more, but sometimes we need more control points. And here you can basically draw or add any type of points to a curve. So in that case, if I want to have control points, I can add here, insert control point, and it just shows me where this control point would be added, moving along the curve. And it also gives you an indication of where it would be on the control polyline. So I just add it here, and that gives me another control point. It just continues adding other control points. So if I left click, then it would create another control point, but I don't want that, so I click right, and now I have another control point here. And if I don't like it, I just remove it. So that's about control points. Now if I want to add a knot or like a interpolation point, then I can use this one. Of course, it also adds another control point. Every curve has always two sets of points, the interpolation points and the control points. Now I just clicked escape so it doesn't draw anything. Now, okay, let's add one maybe, so I can either right click or with enter. I can confirm my point, and then with minus I could remove it again. And here actually you can remove until you have only two left. Then you have the kink option. As you can remember, there's the way that you draw on how you draw circles. So you can draw a circle like this, and now when I move one of these control points, actually it creates a kink because these are arcs. And if I use the deformable option, then I actually have something like this. And the same actually is here. Now these are all static, or static is like a continuous curve without any kinks. So I can add kinks by using this one. That creates me actually 2 control points. I can then also go even a bit deeper and control the direction of the curves going from these points. So the handlebar editor is this. If now click here, select the curve or surface to adjust, okay. And now I can adjust that kink actually to only one direction. It's as if there are 2 directions. So it's adding really the maximum control over these curves. Don't know if I can control here the other one, the other side. It seems like it has this direction. What if I use the flip command? So if I use flip command, then it would be interesting now if it's adjusting the other side. Yes, that's interesting. So basically a kink has a direction. It has a direction, and the other side of the kink I can adjust here with the next control point. That's interesting. I didn't know. What else? I saw that there is an additional function here. It's called fixed handle length. Let's go here. At the moment, I can actually change the handle length. And if I use this one, then I can't. Then this is fixed. This length is fixed. There's more. Adjust the end bulge. I'm not sure if I ever did this. Oh, yeah, okay, of course. So, okay, it basically gives you control about the first 2 and last 2 control points. Let's start with some nicer curves again. So again, if I use this, see, it's always parallel to that first segment. Edit control point weight. That's interesting. This edit control point weight controls the strength of the curve degree. The curvature, sorry. The higher the weight, and here's the maximum is 10. Probably you can put more. Not sure if you can. Can you? Yeah, you can. So you can actually create a, yeah, the higher the weight, the smaller the radius here in the corner. That's another way to explain it. What else we have here? And that's a bit annoying because there's another sub layer in there. Drag mode. Drag mode is actually on how you move the points. You can set the drag mode here. So this actually shows you what drag mode is active. The drag mode here is set to C plane, which means that whenever I move a point, I need to confirm here, then this point will move in the C plane. I will go out here, then you can actually see a bit better what I mean. I'll go into perspective. So now if I move this, it's always in the C plane. It's never moved from the C plane. Now I can, by the way, with shift you can actually select more than one point. So you can actually do this. This indicates my C plane, my construction plane, orientation of your construction. That could be different. For example, it could be that you have the construction planes in here. That could be, for example, set to front, and you see it changed. Now, if I'm still here in the drag mode set to C plane, then now this is actually changing only in that plane, right? Now if I click here on world, then my dragging again only moves in the world plane and not in the C plane. So sometimes the C plane and the world plane can be the same. The UVN dragging mode is if you have a surface. So then your points will move parallel to a surface. We can look at that at another time. Set drag mode to control points. That gives you well, first maybe let's check out the drag mode to view. That's also interesting. So that will override world and C plane. it's always parallel to the camera, basically. Now this thing is quite interesting. If I click this one, I have several options here. So that moves my point along the control polygon or the control polyline. And if you choose more of them, it does the same. That is pretty cool. So it's basically moves all the points I selected along the control point, along the control polyline. If I press shift, they move the same distance. No, sorry, they move proportional. You can see that this line is shorter than this one. So it will, when I use the shift command, it will actually move only proportional depending on the length of that control segment. When I don't use shift, then that's what it does. When I use shift, it moves the absolute amount. Sorry. So when I use shift, it uses the absolute amount I'm moving in the first segment. I could also use, of course, another one here. And if I don't use shift, it only moves the proportional depending on the length of the segment, of each segment. If I use tab, then it moves only the direction of the control segment I was choosing the first point. Man, this is so cool. Come on. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Don't know yet where to use that, really. Anyway, drag modes. Interesting stuff. Grasshopper wise, there is not really an equivalent for this. I mean, there are of course, other ways to manipulate the curve with adding more subdivisions, for example, in a curve, or rebuilding. But that we will look into when we actually rebuild curves. So we would move on to the next topic, which is offsets. Offsets are quite cool, and I use it all the time for all kinds of stuff. And offsetting also always depends on your C-plane direction. There are two modes, one is offset and one is multiple offset. And it works very simple. It's just, you click or offset. That's what I normally do. Actually, there are more options here. So you can define the distance, of course. The distance, let's say 10. Yeah. 10 is not really a lot. In that case, 50. And it offsets the curve by 50, depending on the unit. In that case, it's 50 meters. Once you set the distance, it will store that distance for the next time use. So now, for example, if I choose this line again and right click, then I'm back in the command and I can choose the side I want to offset. I could offset in this direction. Let's check more options here. So what does loose mean? What does corner mean? Point, trim, tolerance, both sides, and so on. So we will go through these. First, distance again. Distance, you can change the distance now. You see that it's not fixed yet, so it's set to 50, but I can change it. During the command, I can set it to 100, and I can choose the side. Now let's check what loose does. I'm gonna choose again, and now I set loose, yes. And I think you can already see the difference. Loose created an offset, but it's not exact. You can see that sometimes it's less than 100, sometimes it's more than 100, but it created these. So basically, it created an offset of the control points, whereas the other one actually created a curve with a lot of small arc segments. Anyway, so these are the two different types, loose or not loose. If your polyline looks like this and I offset this one, sorry, offset, and I choose round corner, then it creates a round corner. It's funny that it's actually only does it in the outside corner, which is a bit weird. So if I would do that in the other direction, it would do this. And this is probably because of the radius. So funny, you can't really change the radius, but you can of course then choose other options here. Smooth, which is very similar. So sorry, let's do this. Nah. No. Now if I offset this one with a chamfer, then it creates this chamfer. I'm not sure if I can actually adjust the length, but yeah. Smooth, what does smooth does? Smooth, is there any difference between this one and round? Not much really. It's a flat kind of curve here. And you have the option of none, which doesn't create, it just basically offsets each segment without connecting it back together. I normally use this one, that's just a normal simple offset. Another option is here through point. So if I want to, for example, I have another thing here and I want to offset it through a certain point here, then I can offset it like this, offset, and then normally I just type T and then it offsets it to the position I want. I use that very often. Trim, yes and no. So what does that mean? Trim, if I do this, if I offset to inside, you see that it creates these extensions because this is the offset of the segments and it trims it off. If I don't have that on, then it does this. That's a bit weird, but it's interesting. Maybe sometimes it could be used. So again, trim, no trim. And tolerance, we'll not discuss today because that needs its own little video, I think. But we have other stuff here. Let's delete that. I can offset in two sides at the same time. So if I use here both sides, here is the command both sides, I just type B, it's faster, then I can do this. That you can imagine already how useful that is, especially in plan drawing. If you draw a lot of roads and stuff like that, then this is perfect because you normally construct from a center line. Very often you have center lines, and with that command it's actually very easy to draw roads. So offset both sides, and then yeah, you just select everything. And what did we learn before? Trim. Then you can use one of the functions we already learned last time, was the fillets. But yeah, so offset is really cool. So that's a very important feature. Multiple offsets. That's very similar. It's just here. Oh, did we miss something? Oh yeah. Oh, very important, very important. You can set the output layer. The output layer means that I can, so if my original curve is here in layer 1, then I can set the output layer in a different layer in, for example, in either layer 1, which is the current one. So if I go here on current, oh sorry, if I use current, then it actually puts it in the active layer. And if I use the input, then it's creating it in the original layer of the original object. Hope that's clear. What's also interesting is this option here is the capping option. You can actually close the offset. So with that, you can either choose a flat to close it flat or round. So it creates an arc here. You always see if it's an arc. If it's kinking, then you know it's an arc. Or yeah, or none. So multiple offsets. So with right click you can go into multiple offsets. Select curves to offset, yeah. Distance. Now we need to set another distance here. Let's choose. We're even further away now. Hey, wait. Let's scale this thing first. Offset, multiple offset. When you right click, you can choose the multiple offset. There must be a way to actually offset multiple. You can set a distance. Side to offset here. Let's choose a bigger distance. 200. Side to offset. Yeah, sorry. Again, offset, and now again you can choose the corner. If you have a polyline with corners, then you can choose sharp or round and so on. And you can also now choose the amount of how often it's offsetting. So if I go here and offset, I can actually put in the amount of offsets. Let's say 50. No, it didn't do anything. Oh, I had to choose the side. Now I can do this. Or let's draw something different. And now we look into the Grasshopper version of offsetting. Should have kept that. Let's do it. Let's make a different shape. You can offset by the command offset in Grasshopper. Let's choose here curve again. We set the curve. We did that already with right click. And because this is selected, now it would just select this curve here. Now it became gray. It means it's linked to Grasshopper. And now offset is it's just typing offset. There are different types of offsets. There's offset surface, offset on surface, and what we're using is the offset. And that gives us this tool where we can then add our curve. We can add the distance. We can control it with a slider. Let's put a bit more here. And then you can choose the plane, in which plane you want to offset. We just stay in the plane we are. And also the corner. So you can again choose the corner type and with numbers. So in that way, what you could use a slider again. You put this on number. And no, I didn't check. So it goes from 0 to 4. Type 4 in the maximum and minimum 0. Then you have a slider which goes from 0 to 4. And then you can put this in here. And you can choose the type you want. It's pretty handy. Now, there is no tool for multiple offsets, but you can achieve the same in a different way. you could, instead of having numbers or like a slider here, you could actually have a data node here, and you could set data items. Sorry. This is so annoying. So you could have, let's say, 1000, 1200, 1300, 2000, 5000. Okay, now I have these numbers stored in here. You can see it here. And if I do this, then it creates the offset using these numbers. That's a one way, but it's a bit annoying because you always have to go in there and change the numbers. Except you have a fixed set which you always use. But if you want to experiment, then there's another way you can use. For example, that's not the only way, but it's one way again, is to use a series, Fibonacci sequence. So at the moment you can only see the output here, and it's basically it's a series where you always add the number before, which creates the next number. So for example, here's 0 and 1 is 1, 1 and 1 is 2, 1 and 2 is 3, 2 and 3 is 5, and so on. That's a typical, the basic Fibonacci sequence. And I could put that in here, and it already creates this here. So it becomes always bigger. And I could also change here the start point, the start number, to a different number. I could set the start number to 500. And it's like this. So you just saw what I just did. I put the number here. You could of course use a slider. Can use a slider. Oh, let's use with a bigger number here. And you can use a second seed number. And here you can actually change the amount. And we can still, of course, change at some point the chamfer becomes bigger than the segment. Yeah, you can play a lot with these things here. But what I could do now is actually could move the different rings depending on the same series. What I mean by that is like move. I could move stuff, and we want to move it in the vertical axis. So we type in here the set unit, and we're gonna use the same sequence. That's too much. Yes, like that. And I could turn this off here, so I have only this. Instead of having the Fibonacci series, we can have a different. We can actually have a normal series here. Yeah, so at the moment it's just offsetting once, and with the series I can then choose the first number in the series, would be 0. I can choose the step size. So basically it's a linear series. It's not exponential. Yeah, let's use 100. Oh. I can choose the step size and the amount of how often it should offset. And again, of course, now because we already have it, we could actually do this. Because at the moment it's not moving, it's only moving in the C plane. Now we could actually do this. Doesn't really have the 3D effect, it's too many. Can create really cool things. Now if you, it's just playing around now, so you can already turn off if you want, but I was thinking maybe what if we move that twice? No. Can see my key, I cannot see my keyboard because it's hidden by the microphone. So I could actually move it in the other direction. That could be interesting. So I could use multiply, the multiply function. Because of course here there are just numbers in here, right? Let's flatten these. And I could choose here -1. So I take this number and I create the opposite. That's it for today. Let's see you next time. Ciao.